Jedi Joey. So I just came back from not too long ago, probably about nearly 2 hours ago. I came back from my second viewing of Brave New World, and my first viewing I kind of judged it kind of harsh, but I still think it is a messy film. I still think it has issues, but whenever we get a new Captain America movie, that means, everybody, it's time for Captain America movie ranking. And if you guys don't know, I'm going to be judging this full out fairly because of the fact that Captain America is one of my most favorite Marvel characters, and we will be doing this in the fair way of truth, justice, in the American way. Now, we will not be talking about the old classic, like 60s to 70s classic weird Captain America movies, because I watched some of, there's not a lot of substance and not a lot of things to talk about that really makes them that interesting. But instead, we'll be looking at the Cap MCU films. Now, you already know what this is. Like Deadpool says, let's count them down.
Let's count them down.
Starting at number 4. Captain America, Brave New World. Now you might be saying, like, how is Captain America, Brave New World worse than Captain America, the First Avenger? Look, you guys are going to try and criticize the First Avenger because it's the first of something. But origin stories are notorious for being great. And they're delivered great. And so I think the whole thing is... Plus we had fucking Red Skull, man. Red Skull is better than any of the villains we got in Brave New World. No offense, though. I do still think that Harrison Ford... No hard feelings, big fella. You got a mean swing.
No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a mean swing. Also, means the portal can open.
Like Tony Stark said to Thor. I loved, especially this film. I really dug into. I still think the leader's design is terrible, but I really love his plan of turning Ross into the Red Hulk. I still think Red Hulk needed to use more of his powers from the comics and not just be a knockoff red-colored version of the Green Hulk instead. But I still like Red Hulk, and I still thought he caused a lot of havoc and damage. But my problem with Brave New World is the weaknesses in the story. You feel the reshoots, you feel the writer's strike, and it's not a cohesive story. And what I realized both feelings is, while this movie has some good action sequences, sometimes the action scenes feel like a Disney Plus show in a bad way. Not in what Daredevil Born Again is going to be, but in like a, wow, this was shot for TV or for streaming. And like some of those as a TV show can be really good, but for a movie quality of the amount of money they spent on this movie, it should not be that. So one of my biggest issues with this movie is too much is cut out. They didn't know what they were going to do with the Serpent Society, but don't worry, we're going to talk about them in a minute because we're going to have another video coming out tonight. I have an exclusive scoop for you guys that you guys aren't going to believe, thanks to my big source that I will reveal in my next video. But that's on for another time. But anyway, so we got Giancarlo Esposito and the Serpent Society, but we did nothing with them. They were set up in here, like maybe Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder shows up. Some of the action scenes are good, but I also felt like the whole Batman and Robin, Captain America and Falcon relationship here, I didn't love it because it was fun, it had fun moments, but one of the things I really didn't like about this movie is the fact that it feels too similar to Tony and Rhodey, and how Rhodey falls is similar to how Walking Towards falls. But I'll say this, I liked Ruth. I want to see more of Ruth's character. I think Ruth is an interesting character. I still think it's weird that she's a midget and can fight 6 foot to 7 foot tall giants.
Weird. So we didn't do.
Like, imagine her fighting Polly in Reacher. That ain't happening, bro. That ain't happening. I'm sorry. I don't care what Black Widow school you go to. I don't care what the Red Room does to you. You are not fighting a guy that big. It is not happening. But I think she's a cool character. I want to see more of her, honestly. I think she's one of the saving graces of this movie. Like I said, I think Sam Wilson as a character is a character that has been underestimated, and I think that this movie doesn't fully do Sam justice. But I think that the cameo from Bucky, it's weird him being a councilman, but I love what they do with Sam Wilson. And I love how Sam Wilson uses the shield to differently than how Steve did. They make it his own. But they didn't do enough with him to kind of cement him as a proper Captain America in the way that they did Steve. I want to see more from Sam, but the world building isn't great in this movie. And the fact that it feels like incredible, my biggest low point, why this is not ranked high as a Captain America movie, because it's not a Captain America movie. It's Incredible Hulk, the sequel. If you don't know, they have the leader. The only thing missing from this movie is the real Hulk. There's flashbacks of Edward Norton's Hulk, but he never returns. And there's no Ruffalo in this movie, but there was supposed to be. And you feel it. Sam's not supposed to fight Red Hulk. He was supposed to have. They were supposed to have Ruffalo in here instead, which still probably would have been a great story. But anyway, it's just a mess. And if I had to score Brave New World out of 10 with all the issues it has, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It has some good qualities. It has some things I like. The storytelling is a mess. I do understand the end credit scene now more. The leader's design is terrible, bro. Like, I'm sorry. It's fucking terrible. Sorry, language. I know.
Shit! Language.
Wait a second. No one else is going to deal with the fact that Cap just said language?
Just slip out. Find the septic.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not coming away anytime soon.
You bet your ass.
Steve, you said a bad language word. Did you tell everyone about
The
that?
Hero's imprint. Out with the platinum bastard.
Steve doesn't like that kind of talk.
You know what, Romanov?
Fury, you son of a bitch.
Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
But with the 5-minute mark, so it's okay. But, like, honestly, it's just so bad. Like, I don't get how we had promo art of the leader having a goatee and having the big brain looking like the comics. This dude looks like fucking Mojo Jojo and Frankenstein had a fucking abortion twin out of nowhere. Like, it looks bad. I'm sorry, it looks so bad. Like, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Red Hulk is good. The CGI is a bit iffy, but I just really feel bad about it. It's messed up. Like, it's so messed up. But anyway, that's why Brave New World is the worst Captain America movie to date so far of the MCU. But it still has some cool moments. And I hope to see Sam Wilson's future progress. But he just hasn't stacked up to Steve. But I am looking forward to seeing him face off with a variant of Steve in Secret Wars and possibly Doomsday. With that being said, at number 3, we have Captain America the First Avenger. Captain America the First Avenger started the journey with Steve Rogers at a time when the MCU was just starting out. And while it's not as flashy as Iron Man, this movie gives me a lot of great qualities. I have a lot of fun with this movie because it's kind of a period piece movie. You get to see Cap and his Howling Commandos team. I love Dum Dum Dugan being played by Neil McDonough, who played Damien Dark in the Arrowverse. I love Cap's team here. I love the introduction of Peggy. I love that this is a badass spy action thriller. And even though he didn't return to the role, we have to commend, oh my god, is Hugo Weaving from The Matrix, Mr. Smith. Incredibly amazing. Or Mr. Anderson, yeah, Mr. Smith, I should say, is incredibly amazing as Red Skull. Even though it was nice when we saw a different actor play Red Skull later, for this specific Red Skull, they did a great job. Like, the movie's a little weird for some people, but I love the whole patriotic message. The Star-Spangled Man with a plan. Now, some of the downsides is, since we're in World War II, the way Cap fights, they were still trying to figure out it. So, like, it looks cool, but it's not as good as that. What I love about Captain America in the MCU is he's always developing how he fights as a character. And then when he gets into the MCU, once he joins the Avengers, he gets more of like that MMA style fighting, which is really cool. But with this movie, I really like it. I think it's solid. It's not the best Captain America movie, but it's not the worst. It's the second worst. But that should show you how god tier this list truly is. And let's move in to our next one on the list, being This was a tough call, guys, but I'm putting Captain America Civil War at number 2. There's so much. The Russo brothers killed it. They followed up Winter Soldier with a perfect sequel. Now, the reason why this movie is not number 1 is that the Kevin Feige completely fucked Crossbones so much that Frank Grillo had to move to the DCU and become Rick Flag Sr. Which, thank God, we get Rick Flag Sr. But still, at the price of this is stupid. Now, this movie does, the Russos do the beautifulness of bringing us not only our favorite heroes facing off in an airport, but they introduce new characters, not only our current Avengers, but tackle Spider-Man and the introduction of Black Panther. Rest in peace, Chadwick. It was a great introduction, and Chadwick Boseman is half the reason why I think this movie deserves so much credit that it does. The other credit is the great Robert Downey Jr. I know Iron Man's stick was kind of starting to feel old, but when you got to the Iron Man films, but Civil War really brought Iron Man and brought Tony as a character to a much more full narrative story and a better arc that I really loved. Like, I love what they put him through and putting him through the ringer. And it's like Buzz Lightyear and Woody by the end of this movie, when these two dudes that are meant to be friends face off over friendship. Like, it hits me in the feels every time I watch that scene. And he says, "I'm sorry, Tony. He's my friend. So was I."
Sorry, Tony. You know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. But he's my friend. So was I.
And then they just start fighting. And I'm sorry, like, while the airport battle will always be hailed as the best fight sequence in this movie, you don't get a better fight sequence than Bucky and Steve passing the shield back and forth and Mortal Kombating the shit out of Tony Stark. There is no better face-off than that. The fact that they're beating the shit out of him, and the emotional weight that we get with this scene, the fact that it's so brilliant, the choreography in this movie, the guy that did the Extraction movies does such a brilliant job with the choreography in this movie. I love how Captain America fights. I love seeing Captain America fight Spider-Man. All the iconic moments in this movie. It feels like an Avengers movie, which makes it big and bombastic. And I like what they do with Zemo for the plot, but I wish we got a more traditional Captain America movie with Zemo being more of a Captain America villain than being an Avengers villain. But then later becoming an Avengers villain. But I'm going to give Civil War a 9.4 out of 10. It is the second strongest Captain America movie. It is fantastic. It was all the hype and all the rage. But the number 1 movie on this list is Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Look, Bucky Barnes was in this movie to be an absolute beast. How Sebastian Stan plays Winter Soldier is brilliant. A ghost that's willing to murder anyone. The way they use Nick Fury in this movie is beautiful. After Avengers 1, we need to find out how Cap fit into society and how Cap deals with, the world turning on him and Hydra rising is brilliant. And the scenes between Bucky and Steve, where they're beating the shit out of each other, but they're still like, Steve will let Bucky beat the shit out of him and tell him, I'm with you to the end of the line. And the shock reveal, the fact that this movie is still one of the most comic book movies to date, but is still not because it's more of a political thriller movie. And what I love about this movie is an example of what we could have gotten with Brave New World, but they wanted to go for the CGI fest and all the other stuff. They didn't commit to the political thriller. There's elements of the political thriller, but here you had Robert Redford, an amazing actor, behind Hydra, and incredible choreography. The opening scene in this movie, they wanted to show you how much Captain America has developed in the modern day world. There's an opening scene of Cap and Widow. Widow is basically trying to find Cap a date, and Cap is beating the shit out of people. He's beating the shit out of Somalian pirates on a ship with his shield and his awesome... And Chris Evans has said this, and I'm just going to put this to the record. I will one day make a video of the best and worst MCU suits in the history of the MCU. That stealth suit in Winter Soldier is one of the greatest Captain America suits ever made, and one of the best costumes in the MCU. Like, I love it so much. Sam Wilson's suit in Falcon and Winter Soldier and the one we saw in Brave New World is good, but it's not stealth suit good. So, I mean, the fights in this, the choreography, that fight on the highway with Steve in a modern day, just like regular dress clothes and only wielding his shield against Bucky wielding a knife. And it's actually foreshadowed in First Avenger, because not only in all the other great things we got in First Avenger we also got Cap being built up, and Cap was #1 fan was Howard Stark, Tony's dad. So before Tony Stark and Steve ever met, Steve was already a big fan of the Starks because he met Tony's dad. And Howard was such a big fan of him, he was trying to tell him to prepare him when he was making his shield and making all his gadgets. Hydra's not going to come after you with a pocket knife. And then what happens in Winter Soldier? Bucky comes at Steve with basically a pocket knife. So, and he was working for Hydra. So I thought that was a brilliant setup. The fight was incredible. The hallway fight was just so cool. Like, you know, Steve kicking him into the thing. And the kicker of this entire scene is Bucky is beating the shit out of Steve. And then Steve flips Bucky, pulls off the mask, and he realizes that this crazy assassin is literally his best friend. And they even do the iconic scene from the comics where Bucky's face is shown to Steve, and Steve's like, "Bucky, I thought you were dead." And then Bucky looks at Steve and goes, "Who the hell is Bucky?" And it's just brilliant. This movie is a masterpiece. This is the Dark Knight of the MCU. It's dark in tone, gritty, doesn't need to be rated R, but it gets its job done. And it has the best balance of comedy and action the MCU has ever seen. Like, some of the jokes in this movie, like the idea that we introduced Sam Wilson and Captain America's friendship while Bucky doesn't enter the picture yet. You get to see their friendship bond and the whole, "Oh, that's how it is? Yeah, that's how it is." Or like the camaraderie and the banter. That's how I see my friends. Like, I love the whole idea of on your left. The fact that on the left joke was created in this movie is brilliant. So anyway, guys, what do you think about my Captain America ranking? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know. Catch that shield. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. And have a marvelous day. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, I forgot before I sign off, Winter Soldier, 10 out of 10, bro. Just gotta say it. So, have a great day. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch you in the next video.